Okay, what does it mean to have enemies in your own family? 'Cause the truth is, in life, in this material world, you can have enemies amongst the wild animals in nature. You can have enemies amongst other races, other ethnic groups. That's where racism stems from. You can have enemies, different gangs, different neighborhoods, different clans, tribes, etc. War and betrayal and social issues with other humans are pretty much all pervasive all throughout any human's experience. But what happens when the enemies are your own family? And how is it that you can tell? Because usually, if it's your family, you might not even know that they are your enemy or plotting against you. Well, who that would be and what that would be spiritually is the entity and the spirit of the Nagas. Okay, in the East and in Asia, South Asia, they call them Nagas or Naga spirits, and they are the most fierce and the most dangerous and destructive entities in the whole cosmos. Okay, if you study the pantheon of Eastern spirituality, right? Now, these Nagas in the Hebrew tradition and Christian tradition are called the Nakash, or Nakasha. Now, these Nakash or Nagasha or Nagas spiritually embody the destructive nature and the deceptive nature of deception, because your family may also be deceiving you. What if your own family is your enemy and it's to the extent of just trying to deceive you, trying to destroy you? Well, that would be the entity of the Naga, not any other entity, not a demon, not a. Demons are pretty much Satyric spirits. Devils, demons are Satyric spirits. They have horns, they're real popular. Everybody knows what they look like. Those are devils. And they are if you look on a spiritual hierarchy of entities and the different spiritual worlds where these deities dwell, the Nagash or the Nakash would be at the lowest level of the spiritual world, which is called Patala. Okay, there's seven worlds. They'd be underneath the seven worlds and the seven lower worlds beneath. So from your crown of your head, the top of your head, if you study the tree of life or the chakras, on the top of your head is the crown. Down here at your colon and your behind would be the seventh round. And there's seven distinct rounds that are parallel within your body with the whole cosmos. This is called the cosmic tree. And there's a serpent that tries to travel and conquer as you spiritually awaken and spiritually attain different states of consciousness. That serpent travels up this tree. Okay. But usually in the mythology, they speak of an archangel like Michael or Gabriel slaying this dragon, or the Christ figure being born and slaying this dragon. And that's what we're speaking to, because what the Christ represents is the knowledge that God dwells within you. So have that realization, you also realize that God dwells within all beings. And when you operate from that perspective on life, you reach Christ consciousness, and you then behave and you follow the principles and the activities that consciousness would embody. Okay, like compassion, for example, wisdom, knowledge, understanding. You get it? The seven virtues is what they're called. Okay, as opposed to the seven vices, because the embodiment of all of these seven vices is that serpent dragon. In the Hebrew mythology, his name is Samael. Samael. Now, these Nakash, as they're called in the Hebrew, or serpent demons or serpent entities, they can possess your family. Okay, we're speaking metaphysically, not literally. Because if I was to speak literally, we're saying, what do we mean by demonic possession of these serpentine dragons that would try to deceive you, just like a serpent would, right? Serpent would camouflage and blend with the environment. Well, that's what these entities do. They camouflage themselves as a loving, endeared, close family, and once a snake gets in your environment and learns your behavior patterns, naturally a serpent will do this. It knows it is hidden, that you can't detect it. It'll slowly creep up on you, okay? And it will strike, and it will either bite you and begin to try to swallow you whole by choking you out with whatever negativity they have for you, and they'll begin to try to swallow you whole, okay? Or they will bite you. Other serpents and nagas, they will bite you with whatever poison they have that will get into your spiritual consciousness, into your consciousness, and slowly begin to break you down, your body down, okay, like a disease. That is the Nagas. That's what they do, okay? And the Nagas can show up inside of your family. So metaphysically, to take this into physiology and deal with anatomy, these serpents, okay, we have three different levels. They generalize in physiology and Western science, and that would be your reptilian brain, your mammalian brain, and your neocortex. Okay, so your reptilian brain, your mammalian brain, and your neocortex. Now, those humans that operate from the level of destructiveness, the yogis and the sadhus of the East call it tamas. It's tamas, rajas, and sattva. Tamas would be evil, rajas will be good, sattva will be holy and divine. Okay, so you have humans that operate from tamas, which is evil. The entities in nature that embody that tamas energy the most would be serpents. The animals that embody Raja the most, which is the good, would be, for instance, cows and bulls. But those entities that, animals that represent the entities of Sava, which would be holy, would be divine birds. Your peacock, your swan, your dove. In the Christian world, they have the dove. That's a big symbolism there. So, Tamas being the lowest would be the serpentine energy. What has to happen is as that serpent travels up the spine, is you do the alchemy to conquer your own negative uh, consciousness and your own ignorance by your experiences of those who you experience in external, whether it's your family or in society, your associates, etc. That's what the alchemy is there for. You're trying to transform that serpent into a divine bird, and that's what would be the lowest state of evolution symbolically to the highest state of evolution of attainment of consciousness. But there is no promise that your family will even recognize their ignorance and their evil toward you if they are your enemy. Now, if they are your ally and they have much love and affection for you and much devotion to you, that'll be another tape. We'll deal with that, and how that will help you in your spiritual journey. But today we're dealing with how, if your family is your enemies, how that should help you in your spiritual journey. We're starting with the Nagas. We're starting with the lowest and the bottom, the most treacherous and the most harmful. So when a entity becomes negative towards its own, when it becomes negative towards its own, when an entity does that, that's not a demon, okay? That's even lower. Snakes, serpents, and reptiles are known to be cannibals and be cannibalistic. They will eat their own, and that is what is a certain limited amount of animals. That is a paradox, or a small percentage of animals in the animal kingdom that would eat their own as their main source of food. Well, that is with your cobras and king cobras and etc. And a lot of your pythons and a lot of your serpents, anacondas even, they eat their own. They literally hunt and eat other snakes, you know. Uh, and when you take that into consideration, apply that symbolically to family. And that's what the ancient sages wrote in the holy text, that uh, that nature that a serpent has to not see the external being as its own, or to love or have love and affection or compassion for that being, but yet want to predatorize and prey on that being, that's a Naga if they show up in your family. You see? So if that behavior, you see them trying to hate you, sabotage you, destroy your life, through deception especially, that's a Naga. See? And what this channel and what I'm investing in trying to show people and help people understand, that you may be devastated, you may be traumatized, but what you need to do is use that alchemy to transform that serpent into the divine bird and slay that serpent inside yourself, you see. Because socially, it's not too much you can do in this Western society with enemies like that, unless they try to murder you. You can defend yourself, obviously. But we're saying just socially, because a lot of things are dependent on social dynamics, social positioning. So psychologically is where it matters. We're trying to do psychological transformation, psychological attainment of a higher state of consciousness. So how you do that is you reach Christ consciousness, which would be the dove, For the yogis in the East and Hindus, that would be the swan, okay, and the eagle, the falcon, for the Egyptians and so on, and the ibis bird, which would be the phoenix, okay, the divine phoenix. That's what we're doing, right? The rise of the phoenix, the rise of the phoenixes, the rise of the phoenix, and the peacock, okay. Uh, Slay that serpent. The angel Mikael, if you look at iconography, he always has peacock feathers, okay, or sometimes dove feathers. A lot of the angels have dove or peacock feathers. Interesting, right? Uh, that symbology of their wings is not literal. There's no literal men in the sky with wings, okay? That's imaginative visualizations of ancient holy men and holy women priests imagining different conscious principles that are abstract in nature and in our subconscious and in the cosmos, stars and galaxies, constellations, etc., embodied in what are called archetypes and symbols and forms. Aristotle and Plato have a concept of the theory of forms, meaning these formats and prototypes of shapes and forms in our subconscious. Well, we apply the dove wings and the peacock wings because they symbolize a level of divinity symbolized in nature, slaying that dragon. So that experience with the negativity in your family, that's how you know if they're your enemy. You can do it through following the nature of that serpent and what nature are they living by? What level of consciousness are they living by? They're not living in their mammalian, which would be affectionate, loving, very social, very social. They would celebrate you, etc. But then you have the neocortex, meaning they be divine, they be Christ-like, they be like the divine feminine, even if they females, they be like the divine masculine at its highest form in the neocortex. But if they haven't reached that state of consciousness, and they're at the state of consciousness below the mammalian, they be in the reptilian brain stem, and that level of consciousness is all about selfishness, survival, competitiveness, destruction, uh, hunger, lust, all of the lower principles that we know of that operate even in our human psychology, okay, and society as a whole. So that's a warning and that's some insight to give you a little bit of consolation to console your soul to know that there is an explanation for how it can transpire where your family will go against you. You see, we've been given many, and I'll say this last point, we've been given many presumptions from society, many preconceived ideas from society that family is supposed to be perfect because we think God created the world perfect, or that then God will create you perfect, and God will create your family perfect. And the ideal family naturally would be your siblings would be your protector, they would be your keeper, and that your parents would be your providers, your leaders, your guidance. Well, that's not absolute, or that's not absolutely the reality. The reality is far more bleak if you know the philosophical truth. And I'm be peeling away the veils of illusions of what this society has put on us because of certain paradigms and constructs and trying to destroy them. And we'll deal with the theology of this and how that applies. But that's what it would mean if your family is gone against you, okay? If your parents, siblings, extended family, etc. If there's females that's been predatorized, sexually predatorized by family members, that's a Naga, okay? That's a serpent. That is a serpent entity, meaning he's moving, that predator, male or female predator, is moving with their reptilian brainstem. They don't have compassion for you, the mammalian brain. Get it? If anything that is an offense or violation against you, or if you violated or offended anything against them to the level of destruction or destroying their psychology or their life, that is a Naga spirit. And what has to be done is ritualistically either uh, cast that entity out of your life through certain spiritual practices, which I can document in this page in the future, or exercise it either personally in your own environment, your own life, your own psychology, or you can cast it out in your outer environment, in your family house, or in your village, or in your city, or your society. Because really, the bigger goal is to cast this entity out of the whole society. But that's a big job, you know. But for now, we're dealing with it on a more smaller scale. The serpent within us and the serpent within our family. We're going to deal with the bigger issue, with the bigger dragon, eventually. You see. So with that, slay that dragon. That's what we are. We're dragon slayers. We're serpent slayers. And if we have serpents, then what we do, we conquer them and we train them. You see, we have control over the serpents, right? So that's what it means when your family has gone against you and is deceived you or trying to deceive you and trying to destroy your psychology, your conscious, your consciousness and your conscious existence. So with that, be in peace, be in bliss. I'll see y'all later.